Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about January 2022 TBR reads. I have a lot on my list, which means I probably will fail. And it's so funny because the second I start a YouTube channel, I don't want to read anything. Like I've started like 3 books and I just can't even get a chapter in. I don't know what it is. It's probably just reverse psychology, whatever. Let's get into it. First, I want to read A History of Wild Places. I'm sure you've seen this cover around. It's actually one of the book of the month picks. I was influenced to, actually, I feel like I was bombarded by book of the month. They had people doing sponsorships for them, and then in between the sponsorship was an ad for book of the month. I was just overwhelmed. So consumerism won this round. Let's see what this is about. I feel like this is a thriller literary fiction, and to get out of a slump, it's not always recommended to read literary fiction because you kind of need to use your brain more. In my opinion, there's more lyricism, there's more, you kind of have to pay more attention to the style of the reading and not just the content. Okay, so I'm reading the description on Goodreads. Don't judge me because I haven't read it yet. But this guy named Travis, who is kind of like a Sherlock Holmes character, he is looking into the disappearance of Maggie St. James, who is an author, and she belongs to like this commune cult sounding situation. It's called the Pastoral. Ooh. And he disappears too. And now it says years later, Theo, a lifelong member of Pastoral, discovers Travis's abandoned truck. So it sounds like we're gonna be jumping around characters a lot, which also kind of sounds like a little more work than I want this new year, but we will see. Hauntingly beautiful, hypnotic, and bewitching. I like those adjectives. A History of Wild Places is a story about fairy tales, our fear of the dark, and losing yourself within the wilderness of your mind. That sounds pretty intriguing. That last part hooked me. The next book got me by the cover alone. It's called Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. Wow, what a title. It's by Olga Tokarczuk, and it was translated by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. So I think it was originally a Polish novel. Okay, so this is a thriller / suspense novel. It's about a girl named Janina, and she's kind of like a recluse. She is a nerd. It sounds like she studies astrology. She translates poetry of William Blake. She seems like a Boo Radley kind of character. And someone turns up dead, her neighbor called Bigfoot. And people start suspecting her because she's so kind of isolated. And apparently she goes and starts investigating herself. It says a deeply satisfying thriller, cum fairy tale, and they spelled cum like C-U-M. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead is a provocative exploration of the murky borderland between sanity and madness, justice and tradition, autonomy and fate. Whom do we deem sane? It asks. Who is worthy of a voice? So it actually sounds super similar in theme to A History of Wild Places. So I'm very excited to read those two, possibly together in a vlog. Okay, next I'm gonna read, and this I might read first because it's short and it's sweet. It's a children's storybook classic. It's called The Little Prince. I'm sure you've heard of it, by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I'm sorry for not pronouncing that in a French accent. It's about a pilot stranded in the desert, and he comes across this little boy who draws him pictures. That's literally all it says on Goodreads, but I've heard people talk about a rose and how like there's a famous quote about how nothing really matters as long as he has his one rose to find. It's supposed to be like a metaphor for finding a true love or something like that. So I think this is gonna be sweet and wholesome. Okay, so next is actually one of my anticipated January releases by an author that we all know, Rachel Lynn Solomon, who previously wrote The X Talk last year. So this is called Weather Girl. I think I'm gonna do a release day vlog, we shall see. And it sounds kind of similar to the X Talk, so I hope I like it. The X Talk just bordered on whether I liked it or not, so we shall see. This is about a girl who's a meteorologist, so there's a very niche kind of job, just like the X Talk, they were in radio. The only difference is her love interest, the hero, is described as someone who is kind of shy and quiet. So we'll see how that dynamic runs out. But they try to hook her boss up with someone else. Yeah, they team up to solve their boss's relationship issues. So it sounds like the setup, that rom-com movie on Netflix, and I like that movie, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, next is one that I have heard a lot about. It is called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab. Cotton Schwab. I'm so sorry. So I've heard great things about this book, and I've heard some people don't like it. And I know that's gonna happen all the time, but just the description of this story really intrigues me. It sounds kind of like what was that Blake Lively movie? I guess in France in 1714, Artie Amoud, she is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets because she makes a bargain to live forever. So I think this is like spans 300 years and no one ever remembers her. So she's obviously very lonely. Ooh, The Age of Adeline. Okay, that's what the movie's called. That this is reminding me of. But apparently in a hidden bookstore, she comes across a young man after nearly 300 years and he remembers her name. So I'm really excited for this. Okay, the next book I want to read is Memorial by Brian Washington. I started the book last month without really knowing much about it, and I instantly liked it. I knew I was gonna like it, so I was waiting for my library to release the audiobook so I could listen to it, and it is here. So this is about two men who are, I think they're in a long-term relationship. They've been dating for a long time, Benson and Mike. One of them is Japanese, the other is Black. And Mike, who is Japanese, his father's dying, so he goes out there. But Benson is left with his mother, who is Japanese. She can hardly talk English, or at least he thinks so. So it's like this odd pairing. Now that's where I stopped the book, was just when the mother and Benson were stuck in the apartment by themselves. And it was just hilarious, but also like you could tell that they were gonna create kind of a relationship. So I'm really excited to read about that. I wonder, because they're describing Mike's story in this synopsis, I wonder if we're gonna go back and forth between the two characters. I hope so. But this seems super kind of, it seems like a good story for personal growth, which is always gonna be my favorite story, and also about found family. So I'm very excited to read this. Another, I don't know if it's a highly anticipated book for this year, but it's Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Now, people are obsessed with Colleen Hoover. I'm in a book club in Hawaii here, and we've read 2 Colleen Hoover books, Verity and It Ends With Us. I think I read each of them in one day, so it really has the entertainment factor, but the stories themselves, I feel like they weren't my favorite, or maybe it was the way it was told. I don't know. Like, I'm gonna remember them, maybe. Actually, probably not. Anyway, I'm intrigued enough to check out Colleen Hoover's newest book, which is going to be released, I think, January 18th. And let's see what this is about. I don't know if I'm going to like this one. I think I'm going to do a vlog. I already pre-ordered the ebook on my Kindle, so I think I'm going to do a release day vlog for this. But this is about a girl named Kenna. She served 5 years in prison for a tragic mistake. We'll see what that is. It's probably going to be the mystery of it. And she goes back to her hometown. Nobody wants anything to do with her. She has a 4-year-old daughter. Honestly, I don't really like stories where they have like estranged children, especially when they're young. I know that's rude of me, but it's like, I don't really care about that trope. The only person who hasn't closed the door on her completely is Ledger Ward, who is a local bar owner, but it talks on the synopsis here on Goodreads that there is some sort of risk to that relationship. I'm not sure how. Maybe, I don't know. And so I feel like there always has to be like this big, like twisty thing in the Colleen Hoover books that I've read and the ones that I've heard people review. So I wonder what it's gonna be here. It's probably gonna be something super deranged that she got arrested for. My next read is one of 3 books that I have for a video that I'm planning about 3 very different styles of romance. This one is Passion on Park Avenue from Laura Lane. And I think I first heard about this on Chandler Ainsley's channel. Channel, sorry. This is a rom-com, so it's gonna be light and it's gonna be tropey, and I'm gonna be here for it. It's also in New York City. It's about a girl named Naomi, and she is the CEO of this jewelry company. Her mother was a housekeeper, and so she's like trying to prove herself. I actually don't really like stories where people are trying to prove themselves, because it's like, you're an adult, get the F over it. But I am excited for this. It looks like there's going to be a enemies to lovers interest in her neighbor Oliver. Her mother used to work as a housekeeper for his family. So they've known each other for a long time, and they've always kind of butted heads. Of course, we know what the ending of that situation is going to be. So I'm excited for maybe some Gossip Girl feels. I like the New York style. I also like books where they talk about fashion. So I think that's going to be nice and light and hopefully funny. The next book that I'm going to read for that video is going to be Bully by Penelope Douglas. Now, I think this is one of her independently published books, so I know that the editing isn't going to be probably on the same, and it's one of her like first books, so, but it sounds kind of like a Punk 57 vibes just with the title Bully alone. This is going to be my dark romance. Okay, so it's about a girl named Tate, and this synopsis is told in like the first person, so I don't even know what the guy's name is, but it says, "We were best friends once, then he turned on me and made it his mission to ruin my life." So we'll see. She's coming back to senior year after spending time in France, and she's hoping that the bullying will stop. I'm sure it won't, and then it will turn into some creepy, somewhat abusive relationship. Now, these always make me cringe, because it's like, girl, what is wrong with you that like this turns you on? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of like dubious consent, so trigger warning for anyone reading this book. It also really reminds me of a story that I read on Kindle Unlimited, so I'm wondering if I already read this book. And then the final book in that 3-book romance video that I'm going to be reading is Radiance by Grace Draven. This is going to be the fantasy romance selection for that video. I've already read a lot of the titles that came up in my search for fantasy romance, like A Court of Thorns and Roses, but this was on Chandler Ainsley's shelf. She has specific genres on her Goodreads account. And she gave it 5 stars. This has a 4.04 rating on Goodreads as well. So I don't tend to like fantasy YA or fantasy, I don't know about fantasy romance. Sometimes I'm into it, sometimes I'm not. Because fantasy romance has to have a world building part to it. And sometimes I feel like in a romance, you have to have so much romance in it. So it's like, they don't fully build the world, or it's too complicated and the romance feels weak. So we'll see how I feel about this one. Let me read about the summary here on Goodreads. Okay, so reading the synopsis, it's about a prince named Brishan and a noblewoman of no importance named Ildiko. And they have some sort of arranged marriage situation. They obviously fall in love based on this cringy ass cover. I'm sorry, but that's pretty cringy. I don't know what's gonna happen. I feel like there's gonna be some political drama, which is another reason I don't really like fantasy, because there is political tension always in it. So we'll see how annoying that is. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the twist is gonna be, or like what the conflict's gonna be. It's like, oh, we're married and we actually like each other. The end. What are you gonna write about that? Hopefully this will be a fun read, and I'm excited for that video. I feel like it's gonna be a fun video to make. And on a completely different note, I'm going to be reading 5 Tuesdays in Winter by Lily King. This is actually a short story collection. I love short stories. I know a lot of people don't. They're usually really depressing because you can't really fully get into the natural arc of a story. So there's not always a nice, pretty wrap up for each short story, which is both painful and delightful. So usually short story collections have a focus, like a theme overarching. So let me read about this. Oh, okay. So this collection is kind of focusing on love and desire, heartache, all those kind of very human, very like tugging emotions. These tales explore desire and heartache, loss and discovery, moments of jolting violence, and the inexorable tug towards love at all costs. I'm into it. Oh, brutally raw and unsparingly honest. I don't know if I'm ready for that. So I actually haven't read that many books in a month, unless they were like really short, like raunchy smut books or something like that you can like really speed through. These books have a lot of substance, so I'm hoping I get to all of them. And if I do, for some really magical reason, I do have 2 hard copies of books that I want to get read this month. The first of which is a library book that's due at the end of the month. So this is going to be my main focus. It's called The Liar by Eilert Gundergoshen. Good name, good cover. That's why I picked it up. I am a judgy little bitch like that. So this is about a girl named Nofar, Nofar. And she is a teenager. She works in an ice cream store and she tells a lie, and suddenly like a bunch of press and journalists wants to talk to her about it. I don't know what the lie is, but obviously it's big enough to warrant all this attention to her. And then I don't know if it's going to go into another point of view or if it's just going to be a collection of like people in this town who lie and the conversation and theme about that. But it's also talking about an elderly woman named Raymonde. Maybe this is French. And she is trying to keep her friend alive by inhabiting her stories. I don't know exactly what that is, but it says the lie takes a life of its own. So this is going to be like surrounding the theme of lying, which is not something I particularly enjoy reading about, but I don't think it's going to be like a trope kind of conflict. I feel like it's just going to be about like completely about just lying and what that means as you grow and how to move on past that and how to be authentic after that. We'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. We'll find out, but it is beautiful. And the second book I have, I ordered the hard copy because I was so excited to read it. It's so soft. It's called Summer Suns by Lee Mandello. It's been described as like a gothic southern novel about 2 boys who fall in love. So it's about Andrew and Eddie. Reading this description, it's giving me kind of, The Ninth House by, what is that? I don't know, like a dark academia vibe. It's about Andrew and Eddie goes to Vanderbilt to start his graduate program. 6 months later, Andrew goes there and it looks like Eddie dies of an apparent suicide. So yeah, it sounds like Andrew's going to search for the truth of Eddie's death, and there's going to be something happening between Eddie's roommate and Andrew. Actually, I didn't know that Eddie died. I didn't read the synopsis, shocker. And now I'm already sad. Maybe he's not dead, or I don't know. I guess we'll see. See, I'm already hooked. I'm already intrigued. Those are all my to be read books for the month of January. Fingers crossed that I complete them all. I don't know if I have the endurance skills to get through them. Right now, like I said, I'm in a huge slump and I don't know, we'll see. Honestly, I don't know if I'm a fan of TBR videos because it's like, if you do your monthly wrap up at the end of the month, like, shouldn't it be the same video practically? I guess it's like an introduction to the story and then a review of the story. So I thought I'd go ahead and try this out because it's easy to film, honestly. And we'll see if I continue doing these videos. If not, have a wonderful new year, and I'll see you in the next video.